Dad, you look grumpy today.
No, you're grumpy. Your face is grumpy. No,
Proving
I'm
me
not
wrong right away.
Yeah, good news. The baby got the green light to not be forcefully woken up every 2.5 hours to feed, which is the way that it is through the first 2 weeks of life.
Wait, you have to wake up the baby every 2 hours?
Yes.
The baby doesn't even know to eat?
It knows to eat. It just has to eat. And so the goal is to make sure that it is getting what it needs for, a strong and healthy life. Now, past 2 weeks, we are not waking the sleeping baby. The sleeping baby can sleep as long as it wants. And then when it starts crying, that's when you feed it. So it opens up the delectable possibility of only one time, as opposed to up to 3, that my wife and I have to wake up in the middle of the night, which is great. The problem was not my child last night. The problem was the service that we use to record things, which by and large has been exemplary, decided to not do that last night. And I had to get out an episode that was tremendously flawed in its audio. But it's a deadline episode. It was about the debate. And so you can't just hold it, or else I get a bunch of emails saying, where's the debate episode? And so instead I get emails saying, hey, the audio screwed up on the debate episode. So I'm going to have to re-upload it, but it'll be fine. Whatever. It's fine. Thank you for noticing.
What was
Jen.
wrong with the audio?
It was dropping out. It was just like, well, what I think when Kamala
Okay.
in Pennsylvania,
That would be
so
frustrating.
that was the idea. Frustrating, but in my what I didn't remember last night is that Riverside does also record a cloud backup, and so I'm going to use that. I'm going to re-edit it with that. Anywho, do we have debate thoughts? Did we watch the debate? Heaton, did you stay up late Scotland time to watch the debate?
I thought about it, and then I thought it would be better to just go to sleep and live my life and wake up and watch it while drinking coffee the following morning, and I knocked that out of the park. That was not worth me staying up for. That was not worth 2 o'clock in the morning, Heaton. It was okay. I don't know. I think, guys, for the rest of our lives, we're never going to think debates are as interesting as that time the president's brain leaked out of his ears like motor oil from 2 months ago. Because that's now what I'm anticipating as being like, oh, I wonder what will happen. Maybe a clown will walk on stage, or like a gorilla will fight its way. No, they're just going to argue a lot about shit. I thought Trump got more and more defensive, whereas Kamala didn't seem very flapped. And and I forgot how whenever he's in a debate, he really doubles down on the immigration stuff really, really hard. I also thought it was funny. There was a moment where Kamala went, people leave his rallies early, by the way, because they're too long and they're not entertaining. And I was like, there's no way he can't talk about this. There's no...
Yeah.
Anybody else would have been like, well, that's stupid. I'm going to talk about the thing we were talking about, the tariffs. Not him. Not him. Immediately. No, you know what? No, they're the greatest rallies. People love the... Immediately did that. So I would actually like to see her do more of that, because he cannot help himself. And I thought it was a really funny moment. What did you make of it?
Well, Jen, you go first, and then I'll wrap it up. I want your guys' opinion.
Well, I mean, Trump just exposed himself once again as incapable of knowing the difference between fact and fiction. He's just so clearly one of those people where if he believes it, it is fact. So therefore, immigrants are eating our pets.
Yeah, I forgot
I saw it on TV.
They're eating our cats,
okay. Yeah,
Yeah, that was aggressive.
Pets. Yeah, so he was obviously crazy, and he said some things that were so crazy that Joe and I had legit belly laughs because they were so far. And so it's you can see that this went well for Kamala, because how could it not, being up against that guy? But then some of her answers, specifically on climate, where it was basically frack, baby frack, and like
Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, and she's like, we're drilling more than anybody. And then when they ask her specifically about climate, she's like, well, we're bringing back manufacturing jobs. And we're like, wow, you couldn't be any worse on this. And then, the Israel stuff, she did say that there should be a 2-state solution. There were questions about how she felt on that. So we learned that. But like, she in no way reached out to the people within her own party that, like I said, at the DNC were really treated poorly. It's clear that she's running to the right, and maybe in this election that is a smart move, considering she's also bragging, which we're going to talk about being endorsed by Dick Cheney. Like, so I don't know, just as someone who gives a shit about the environment and would like to stop the mass death in Gaza, like I didn't walk away from that feeling any better, but it's just so clear between the two. One is crazy and will believe anything that's told to him. And she's establishment warmonger, not going to do much for the climate, but she does seem to be the safer choice because Trump is out of his mind. So I don't know. I'm still depressed. I'm just as depressed now as I was when it was the Biden-Trump debate. I just don't feel like we have good options.
I am currently coming up with silver linings for whoever wins. I have silver linings for whichever victory takes place, but I'm not going to be thrilled with either one of them. It's weird. Like, I look back at, like, Romney versus Obama, and I'm like, yeah. I liked those options. I actually really liked those options. Romney versus Obama was a world I could fit in real well in. This time around, it's like, an unhinged former game show host versus a lizard person. I guess the lizard person seems like the lizard person seems more sane, but the game show host is less likely to get us into World War III. This is difficult for me.
Kamala last night. So I was kind of a part. I might have been like the only person, at least in the few things that I saw while trying to salvage that episode of the feedback on the debate. I might be the only person who thinks that she didn't have a good night because I thought that her answers were pretty bloodless. And also, I just think that the debate meant something different to her. I'm here for anybody's a grade on Trump. If there's a grade lower than F that you want to give him, then I am here for it. My only thought on that is that he's now debated more than anybody in American history. That was his 7th debate. Nobody has ever gone above 6. Every one of them have been like that for me. Like he is, it's not like, you can make an argument that the expectation setting has always been like, oh, well, this time he's going to stick to the issues. He's made a real concerted effort to make sure he talks about his policy. Never, right? I'm just done running toward that football that Lucy's holding to believe that he's going to be anything other than exactly what he was last night. The hope that you have if you're a Republican is simply that his high moments drown out the low moments, that all you wind up remembering 3 weeks after the debate is because you'd be in jail from the Hillary debate and not literally the rest of everything that he said. And I would assume that it's probably going to be something like that for this, if indeed that is the case. For Kamala, she hasn't done any interviews. We have no idea what she believes because in 2019, she was to the left of Bernie Sanders. And now, as Jen pointed out, she's like the policy of Liz Cheney and Sarah Palin in terms of what she talks about. And she has to reintroduce herself. She has to be somebody that people are connected to. And I didn't think that she did that. In fact, if anything, there were lines, because I've watched so many of these, because I'm a brain-broken sicko, like there were the John McCain healthcare story and the Charlottesville story were verbatim Biden's stump speech. Like she was just saying verbatim the things that Joe Biden said. When she went into her I have a plan, that's Elizabeth Warren. She was like the last decade of Democratic politics cover band that was out there, but playing the hits.
See, I'm going to say she's doing smart politics, though. This is a good electoral. Kamala Harris is Schrodinger's candidate. We don't know what she's going to be until we unbox her. We don't know if she's going to be Elizabeth Warren or if she's going to be Joe Biden when he was a centrist. We don't know yet, and there's a reason that we don't know, which is she doesn't want to tell us. And that is very, very smart because at the moment she's able to maintain that unity within the Democratic Party. Everybody's so excited and relieved that there is not a corpse running against Donald Trump, and there's actually a shot of winning, that she's not going to bring much into clear, stark, delineated clarity.
I disagree. I disagree for this reason.
I think what she's trying to do, she's just trying to present herself as like, look, I'm sane and normal. See? And like, she's just trying to do that.
And that is a case study. And there are people that believe it. That, like, you know, Editor Mentum is somebody that I've had on PX3. His belief is that literally a cardboard cutout that says Democrat can beat Donald Trump as long as it doesn't do damage to itself, because it's
I think cardboard Democrat's actually a very good description of Kamala Harris. I think that's
because Donald Trump can't win. That's the argument. The argument is that Donald Trump can't win. The only thing that I would say against that is that he has won once, and he came shockingly close to winning while he had presided over a global pandemic and a economy that briefly cosplayed as the Great Depression. So he came within 40,000 votes of winning then, and he won in 2016. Now, by the polls, he's more popular than he has ever been. By the polls, he is running closer than he has ever been. This would not be the election for me that I would think I'm going to take all of my weapons off the board and just hope, like the bad team in The Waterboy, that if I just don't play offense, that I can eventually win. Somebody's going to get that. For me, I would say, no, you should be a different kind of Democratic candidate. You do need to put your coalition together. You do need to excite people. There was a poll from CARE that came out yesterday saying that Kamala was running behind Jill Stein in like 3 swing states with Muslim voters. I don't know. Running a ghost ship candidate and saying, who knows, not Trump. It is their strategy. I just don't know if it's going to work.
So I'm not even sure she's running a campaign where she's not telling us who she is. I feel like she did talk about policies yesterday. What concerns me is she sounded a lot like Hillary. Like in 2016, the reason I couldn't vote for Hillary, honestly, like I was struggling to vote for Hillary because I was really concerned that she was pushing for no-fly zones over Syria. At that time, we were trying to regime change Syria, and she was going to take it a step further and risk war with Russia. I think Trump actually made some really good points about the wars we've now gotten into. Now, I don't think that, none of this would have happened because the whole world's so afraid. Like, whatever. You can't prove a negative. But she does have a war problem. And at the end of it, in her conclusion, she was basically like, we're going to have the strongest military in the world. And then, like I said, on climate, like she's alienating a lot of the people in the party, just like Hillary did in 2016. And I'm preparing once again to be blamed for Trump's win, as a Jill Stein voter, because like she certainly didn't change my mind yesterday. And that's kind of what I'm concerned about, is that she seems to be running to the right in the same way that Hillary did, like in so many specific ways. So it's like this 2016 feeling all over again. And like I was looking at my friends chat, and they're all, San Francisco liberal people, and they were all so excited. Yeah, like so excited. And I'm just I'm feeling this feels like 16 all over again. And
that was my take. It's like this is like deja vu all over again. Like everybody that was excited about 3 debates in a row with Hillary. Oh, she creamed him. Oh my God, how could you possibly? Blah blah blah. And then it happened in November.
Okay, I am gonna be the complacent person who thinks Kamala is gonna win, and I was that last time when Hillary was running. However. I think my bearings are better this time. So last time, when Hillary Clinton was running against Donald Trump, I was like, no one's going to vote for Donald Trump. That'd be crazy. Clearly, I was wrong. Clearly, I was wrong on that one, right? This time, however, all I'm trying to do is focus on those 40,000 people that are the swing vote. And I think that it's going to be emotional and subconscious, and it will ultimately boil down to like, I don't know. I'm tired of the last 8 years. Let's go with a new person. I think that'll literally be it, and I think it'll carry the day over the finish line for Kamala.
I hope you're right, because at the end of the day, Donald Trump, I can't do 4 more years of that person being in charge, because it's like having someone who believes whatever they believe, despite what the facts says, if you know someone like that, you can generally get away from them unless it's like your parent or the president of the United States. And I just don't think that we can handle 4 more years of someone who's just going to believe whatever bullshit is fed to him. And yeah, so it's like, I don't like Kamala. I'm certainly worried about the amount of fossil fuels that she's pledging to burn. But at the same time, like, Donald Trump is better on literally none of these issues. So,
I mean, except for the war thing that you just said.
yeah, the war, and that's not a small thing, right? But I also think that when he's talking about how he's going to end, the Russia-Ukraine war right away, I think it's because he's going to threaten to use nuclear weapons. I think it's because he really seems to be proud of the fact that the world thought he was a psycho. And so I don't think that his plan for peace, by being such a psycho that everyone is afraid of him, that's not comforting to me either. So even that, I'm just like, yeah, I don't think you're the safer choice either. He's also a path to World War III.
This is the most cognitive dissonance I have is Trump and war. So I've never liked Trump, all the shit. Yes, I don't like Trump. We got it out of the way.
You didn't?
I didn't. I didn't like Trump.
All right, hold on. Let me update my priors.
Let me update the log.
Go ahead.
That being said, though, like I wish I'd done this like 5 years ago or 3 years ago or something. Just listed in order what are Heaton's priorities in a president. What are my top things? Because it's going to be they're going to set their own agenda. But what do I care about? And I think in order I would go peace, by which I mean not going to war with any new countries, and ideally pulling out of places we already are, followed by the national debt and homelessness. Those would probably be my top 3 issues. Now, both of them suck on the national debt. Everybody sucks on the national debt. We could figure out who's going to suck slightly less, but I don't think either of them is really serious about it. Kamala seems to be saying good things about increasing housing supply. There might be some YIMBYism there that could be there. I am bolstered by that. But when it comes to the war, as somebody that really doesn't like Donald Trump profoundly, I have to admit, he didn't get us into any new wars, and he orchestrated our withdrawal from Afghanistan, which, however poorly executed, was a good idea that needed to be done. And so I look at him, there's a part of me that goes, oh, fuck. Am I just thrown off by the shitty rhetoric? Is that the thing that's thrown? Like, is he a more peaceful candidate? And then my brain starts to get this gear grinding moment where it's difficult for me to contemplate it. It's not further helped by the fact that, like, if Trump were to get up there when he talked about Ukraine, if he went, if I would have been president, Russia would have never invaded Ukraine. I had a good relationship with Vladimir Putin, and there's concerns that America is presently prolonging the war in order to weaken Russia, and it's using Ukraine as collateral damage, and I find that abhorrent, and I would negotiate a peace to stop that. And I think that fear of NATO encroachment pushed them into that, and I could have... That kind of thing would assure me a lot more. But to Jin's point, that's not what he says. What he says is basically, I have such a big swinging dick that Russia would never have dared to invade Ukraine. And I'm like, well, this isn't exactly like the Mearsheimer realism that I'm wanting right now. This I don't know if he's actually... some kind of isolationist that I might get behind, or whether it is this just weird fucking bravado that has happened to manifest as a lack of entry into new countries. And so it's something that's causing me dissonance.
I'm going to push back just a little bit on the idea that Trump didn't start any new wars, because it wasn't for a lack of trying. He was actually quite violent, and the thing that keeps running through my head is he assassinated Qasem Soleimani. It was just basically luck that Iran didn't respond to that. And then when it comes to the Israel situation, Trump moved our capital to Jerusalem, or the officially recognized Jerusalem as the capital.
Capital.
He recognized the Golan Heights, which is a piece of Syria that Israel is trying to take. He recognized that as Israel. He is lucky that situation didn't pop off. So it's like he was reckless in foreign policy, and because of the restraint of others, we didn't get into any new wars. But that's also why I kind of look at his record he started the pullout of Afghanistan. It actually was Biden, as messy as it was, Biden who actually finished it. He actually didn't have to do that. He could have gone back on his word on that. So it's, even that is a messier statement to make, that Trump is the one who gets us out of wars and Biden gets us into it.
Well, I
don't know.
I guess what I can say is Biden, Kamala, Hillary, Dick Cheney, Bush, Obama, like pretty much everybody but Trump has not had any break in personnel or ideology in terms of American foreign policy. They're all a part of the same apparatus, which is liberal internationalism, in which the United States is a active force for intervention in the world in order to blah, 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 blah. That does disturb me because I do feel like I know what Kamala is going to do, which is exactly what Biden and Bush have.
Because it's all the same people.
It's the exact same people, right?
It's literally it's like the same college program. It's just new recruits come in, but it's the same philosophy, the same way of playing.
Exactly, and like Trump, that's not clear. Trump does seem to have divisions between himself and, as he frequently points out, generals or other people will point out, or with the State Department or with the national security apparatus. So there's a case to be made that he would at least not be that, or he might not be that. I don't know. Again, I don't feel, this does not make me feel warm and cozy saying these things out loud.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with anything you're saying because Trump is obviously different because I think the man's just winging it. And I'm not comforted by that. I don't think he actually has a plan or because at least with those other people, you know, the Bushes and the Obamas and the Clintons and the Bidens, like, yes, they all have a plan. They have a vision for America. And I think a lot of us are sick of it. But there is a plan there.
I mean, is there?
Trump.
Is there? I mean, like, are we? I mean,
there
like,
is. It's their world order.
Let me say specifically. Let me point out the State Department. How comforted do we feel by the State Department, which is now the third generation of Obama, then Biden, or two Obama cycles, then a Biden
generation
cycle?
of Kissinger. There's been no break from Kissinger within
Like,
the State Department.
I feel like we are just careening in Ukraine. I feel that we are just careening in Israel. Like, yes, we don't have American boots on the ground, but you know, that's been the goal of a certain subsect of, a Kissinger offshoot foreign diplomacy in the 90s. We wanted to do everything by bombing. The Air Force kind of was in ascendancy that, hey, this is amazing. We can have interventionalism. Tastes great. Less filling. No boots on the ground. We'll just bomb everything from the air, and that's how we'll get what we want. And now we're in a similar situation where it's like, no, America will intervene with money and weapons. We won't draft people. We will just send money and weapons into these war zones that, I mean, wherever you are on the side of what is happening in Gaza, I can't imagine that you feel that America has a coherent plan or policy to do anything to bring it to any resolution, because there's never going to be a good resolution. It's the Middle East. Nobody gets good resolutions in the Middle East. There's going to be an imperfect one that stops violence. I don't feel that we are anywhere close to it. And every time that there's a piece of paper that floats out there and we say, well, it's very close, very close. Is it? It never is. Like we have no, the one thing that I can say for Trump is that he philosophically seemed to have at least a more global perspective of like, all right, we're going to kill Soleimani. Why do we feel comfortable that Iran's not going to do anything? Because we spent the previous 2 years starving them of money. And so they don't have the money to do it. If they did anything, it would be small scale. They don't have the cash to do anything larger. So at least it's money first, and then you take out the person that's killing Americans. And also, it was somebody that was actively killing Americans and bragging about it. So that is a sign that says, hey, if you are doing that, then you might get killed on an Iraqi tarmac if that is the case.
I do think that there is a Trump doctrine insofar as it exists. The Trump doctrine is a threefold plan. Step one, say bloviating, dick-swinging bullshit. That's the first thing, right?
Yeah.
Step two.
That happens 24/7 like a Waffle House.
Exactly. And then maybe it's just two. Step two is like sanctions or tariffs. Like he moves to that. But
it's screw with the money. Like everything you need to know about Trump, just know that he's a Queens developer. Yeah. He is somebody that believes everybody hates him. Everybody's trying to screw him. And the only way to do it is to motivate people by saying, I'm not going to pay you, or you're not going to get paid. What you thought was coming in on your balance sheet, I am going to affect, and nobody can affect that more than the president of the United States. And so, like, when he brags and he tells these long, shaggy dog stories of, like Emmanuel Macron, he calls me, he says, Donald, there's going to be tariff. It's like, well, 100% tariff on champagne. No, Donald. Like, that's him. That's it. That's his move. That is, like, is something not happening that I want? Can I screw with their money? if I can screw with their money, they won't do the thing that I don't want them to do. And everybody else is an idiot because they don't realize that they can pull that lever.
True. And I think that what unites the rest of them, for lack of a better phrase, the establishment, so, you know, Kamala, Biden, Clinton, Bush's, like fucking all of them, they talk all the time about this world order, and our role in it is to be the muscle for it. So we protect the trade routes, and we are the ones who determine who can use the financial system. And it's like, it's this US-led world order. And if any country wants to do their economy differently, we go in and we change their government. And it's like, they really believe that this country, not really our country, but like them specifically, the people in that club, should be in charge of how the world, the entire world, operates. And I don't think Donald Trump is that. I think he definitely sees us as one country and sees the commitment in money and military and all the things that it takes to be the ruler of the world. I don't think he really buys that as a necessary mission for all of us. And if there's one way that people are kind of looking at Donald Trump as something different, those of us that really don't want to be the rulers of the world and like don't really mind the fact that, you know, China might run their economy differently, don't necessarily see that as a threat. I think that is where Trump has some kind of appeal, because even if you can't name the details of what he wants to do, he's not that. And
all right,
I don't
Heaton,
know.
this
like
is
I said,
this
I'm not
is your
comfortable,
moment.
But
This is your moment. You go ahead. Did you forget?
Did I forget what?
Never forget. From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young, also from a skyscraping tower in Austin, Texas.
I'm Jen Briney.
And from Edinburgh, Scotland,
I'm Andrew Heaton.
and we're not wrong on this edition of the program. We're just going to keep rolling with foreign interventionalism, because we're going to be talking about the brain breaking for some, for the millennial cohort, the idea that Dick Cheney is being warmly mentioned by the Democratic nominee for president on the debate stage is something to behold. We will discuss that. And also, we're going to do a little bit of a palate cleanser. Hawaii, named the happiest state in the union. Former Hawaii resident Jen Briney weighing in. All that plus your emails. Let's just roll right into this. Former Vice President Dick Cheney has publicly announced his support for Democratic nominee Kamala Harris in the upcoming presidential election. In his statement, Dick Cheney emphasized the importance of prioritizing the nation over party loyalty, saying, "In the 248 years of our nation's existence, there has never been a person who poses a greater danger to our republic than Donald Trump, and that he cannot be trusted with authority ever." Kamala Harris's campaign has welcomed the endorsement. Jen O'Malley Dillon, the campaign chair, said the vice president is proud to have the support of Vice President Cheney and deeply respects his courage to put country over party. And that was echoed by Kamala Harris herself last night from the debate stage. Andrew Heaton. In 2018, the movie Vice villainized Dick Cheney as a paranoid, greedy, and poisonous stain on the American experiment. It was nominated for 8 Academy Awards. In 2024, that film's writer and director, Adam McKay, will vote for the same candidate as Dick Cheney. What the fuck is going on?
What the fuck is going on, indeed? I saw that when it came out in theaters, and Vice is like a ghost story that Democrats told each other inside of an echo chamber. It's the level of I walked out I don't like Dick Cheney and I don't like George W. Bush for a variety of reasons. I think that they were really bad, and I walked out was like, fuck the people that made that film, because it was so over the top. I was like, God, I hate Hollywood. Yeah, it's weird. Okay, I don't like Dick Cheney, multiple reasons. None of which I think are really in the film. Which the film's awful. At one point, they like the 9/11's happening. They're like, when everybody else was terrified, and then out loud, I go, "He saw power," and then the narrator goes, "He saw power," and I was like, oh god, the whole film was like that, where I could telegraph what they were going to say from the beginning. All right, the things I don't like about Dick Cheney. Number one, war in Iraq. I think the war in Iraq was a colossal mistake. I don't see how anybody could really contest that now. I interviewed Bill Kristol on my program a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and he kind of pussyfooted around it and was like, well, America's role should be one of global policemen, but in that instance, we assumed things were going to happen. It's like, you fucked up. You guys fucked up, and there's 300,000 dead Iraqis and 20,000 dead Americans. I don't remember what our count is, but it was a tremendous amount of people that died unnecessarily. Getting rid of that regime removed the evil man that was Saddam Hussein, but what did it do? It allowed ISIS to come up in the vacuum, which is no great win.
And Iran.
And mainly the blood is what I want to focus on, but on top of that, it was $1 trillion. That's $1 trillion we could have put towards all of the fun things Bernie Sanders comes up with on a regular basis, or we could have given it back in taxes, or we could have paid down the national debt.
Stadiums.
Which
how many stadiums?
A lot of fucking stadiums with $1 trillion. You could have $1 trillion. You could have a stadium in every town in America for $1 trillion. The debt did go off the rails with Bush. It had been we'd had a pretty good track record of the debt will grow during a recession or a war, and then it'll come back down, and it was on track. And then Bush got it completely off the rails with his tax cuts, which I think was fiscally responsible, as was George W. Bush. The government had grown more under George W. Bush than any previous president. They were pushing federal programs left and right with No Child Left Behind. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were big government, authoritarian conservatives with shitty foreign policy. I do like some of the judges they appointed, and they did some good revisions in terms of foreign aid, but otherwise I am not a fan of them. So I am weirded out that Dick Cheney is endorsing Kamala Harris, and it only compounds the cognitive dissonance that I mentioned earlier, because I want to like Kamala Harris because I find Trump so odious. I want to find a port in the storm with her. If Dick Cheney is endorsing her, that makes me deeply skeptical of her and the people that he is endorsing for the foreign policy reasons more than anything else. But it's like, the problem that I have with the establishment is now coming to endorse her. This does not fill me with joy or hope. It worries me profoundly. I do think.
Let me ask you this, Heaton. Would you consider yourself I don't think that you have labeled yourself a never Trump guy, but certainly you've swum in those waters. Do you think that right now the Kamala Harris campaign is parading the Cheneys around as if they are like great never Trump whisperers? That there are a lot of people for whom would be like, okay, I subscribe to the Bulwark and the Dispatch. I hate Donald Trump. I've always considered myself a Republican. If Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney are saying that I need to vote for Kamala, then I do need to get over the hump and vote blue no matter who. Do you think that that is efficacious?
I think it's efficacious for them. It doesn't have much truck with me. I like a lot of the Never Trumper people. I like the Bulwark and the Dispatch. I'm a big fan of Jonah Goldberg, but I depart with them on foreign policy. I mean, but like that entire group of Never Trumpers, a significant part of why they don't like Donald Trump, all the reasons that you wouldn't like Donald Trump, but they don't like him for the foreign policy reasons that I am warm to him for, because they want to have a robust, active, interventionist American presence, and they see Trump as departing from that and therefore being dangerous. I think that the Never Trumpers are wrong about that. So I'm not surprised that Dick Cheney would endorse Kamala Harris, and yeah, it might bring over some of those Never Trumpers. Like I think that you're seeing an exodus within the Republican Party slowly of people that were pro-market and pro-foreign hawkishness going into the Democratic Party because you're getting a lot of the managerial class and you're getting a lot of that national security apparatus going there. So, yeah, it might push some of the for people whom Donald Trump is odious on a character level and America should be active abroad, that is a sign to them that, yes, we now have permission. One of ours has come over, but it doesn't do a lot for me. In fact, it makes me much more skeptical of her and makes me have to go, maybe I should rethink this Trump guy.
Jen, the Dixie Chicks and Dick Cheney are voting for the same presidential candidate.
Yeah, I don't think this has that much to do with foreign policy, honestly. I think that we can take Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney at their words, where they say that this has much more to do with the plot of Donald Trump to stay president. And let's not forget that Liz Cheney gave up her political career to serve on the January 6th committee. They spent over 20 hours. I watched every minute of it, investigating what he did. She knows every single part of that plan backwards and forwards. And even though the Democratic Party, for reasons that are still beyond my comprehension, are not focusing on the fact that he coordinated the faking of 7 election certification documents, turned them in as real, and then tried to pressure the vice president to use them on January 6th. That's what January 6th was all about. They like to focus on the riot, but that was the coup plot. Dick Cheney's daughter was one of the investigators of that. And so Dick Cheney, even in saying that he was going to endorse Kamala Harris, pointed to January 6th as the reason. So while I do think that there's some validity to the idea that, Dick Cheney, I think there's still plenty of policy disagreements between Dick Cheney and Kamala Harris, but I'm going to take him and his daughter at their word and say, that is the reason why they've decided to endorse someone from the other party. And then there was also plenty of other people before Dick Cheney that were in the Republican Party. There were military generals that were saying, we've served with this guy. We don't like the way he makes decisions. He's also been disparaging of the military. And there's lots of reasons why people are crossing over that I don't think have to do with foreign policy. I think that coup attempt, that was a big deal for the Cheney family. And I'm gonna take them at their word at that.
Fair. And I'll say that rankles me somewhat, too. I actually had a conversation here at the Royal Scots Club earlier today with somebody about that, where I said, if we take the most good faith argument we can in favor of Donald Trump on January 6th, the most good faith argument we can make, that Trump was giving a speech exhorting people to, just criticize the Congress, that he was in no way coordinating or attempting to incite it, and that was not his goal. Even in that scenario, people were breaking into the Capitol violently, and the chief law enforcer of the country didn't do anything for 2 straight hours. For 2 hours. I mean, at the bare minimum, that was dereliction of duty through sheer incompetency. That's the best case scenario, is that the president was incompetent and incapable of leading at a crunch time moment. And that's the best case scenario. That's assuming that he wasn't just waiting there to see if maybe they'd pull it off.
And last night he doubled down, said once again that he didn't lose the 2020 election. This guy, he believes it, and therefore it is fact.
All the immigrants were eating pets. You notice whatever
cats and dogs.
Whatever they were
Cats
talking
and
about.
dogs in Springfield, Ohio. Yeah,
and that there's places in the United States where they're killing babies after they're born. He's so full of shit. But I think that there's plenty of Republicans, and I give them credit for this, who are putting country over party right now and saying that was a line that went beyond policy, trying to remain president to this day, insisting that election was rigged against him. That is a bridge too far. And yeah, I believe them when they say that is a main reason for their endorsement of Kamala
You
Harris.
believe in Dick Cheney?
Dick Cheney, for all of his faults, and I despise the man for what he did to Iraq and to this country and the spying and all the things, he wasn't much of a liar. He told us exactly what he was going to do. He stood by his evil policies. So yeah, I do believe him when he says that this is the reason that I'm endorsing Kamala Harris.
He's lawful evil.
It's weird though, right? Isn't it weird?
Of course it's weird. Everything about this election and this time in history is fucking weird. Everything.
I think it was interesting to me how much, I'm with you, Jen. This has not been anything that has been odd for what Dick Cheney has said since January 6th. Obviously, Liz Cheney broke from the party, and that election in Wyoming went the way that it did. He came out and had, I believe, a super PAC commercial denigrating Donald Trump around the midterms. So him coming out against Donald Trump is not shocking to me. What was surprising to me is how much the Harris campaign hugged it. And that's where I was like, wow, we are just in a through the looking glass environment here. It's one thing to have people on background and aides or somebody that's a surrogate of Republicans for Harris that says oh, good, great American Dick Cheney. It's another thing for Kamala Harris to be up on the debate stage saying, I am honored to have Dick Cheney's endorsement. That is, we are just in a new meta of politics. For anybody who grew up and was of a certain age during the Iraq War, the concept that any Democrat is saying anything nice about Dick Cheney is truly bizarre, at least to me.
Well, and I think it's crystal clear what's going on here. I think the Harris campaign thinks that they have the left-leaning Democrats by the balls, because what are you going to do? Vote for Trump? And they are courting the never Trump Republicans. And honestly, I think it might work, because this weekend when he endorsed Kamala Harris, I was with one of my, Trump voting Republican barometers. And, she was kind of basically saying that she wanted to write in a different Republican. She had voted for Trump twice, but couldn't do it again. And when I told her that Dick Cheney had endorsed Kamala Harris, she said that might change things. And the reason is, this is someone who's been a tribal Republican. It's a part of her identity. I am a Republican. But to see Dick Cheney, of all people, say, I am a Republican, but I am going to vote for this Democrat this time, it kind of gives them permission that it's not...
A permission structure, yeah.
Yeah, it's not blasphemy to go against the tribe on this one. There is a permission slip that's being granted by these people. And when you get someone as high-ranking in the party as Dick Cheney, it might work. It might work.
I mean, I guess the question then would be, for every one of those, do you lose somebody that otherwise would have voted for you that doesn't like Dick Cheney and is driven further away from Kamala Harris because she hugs Dick Cheney?
Oh, like me? Like the person who's like, yeah, I'm voting for Jill Stein, and everything that you're doing right now is making me feel better about my vote.
It was funny because I actually texted you when you were having a conversation with the person that you're talking about, and I'm like, I don't know if I could think of an endorsement that would make this person vote for Kamala Harris and you vote for Donald Trump than Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney full-throated being like, Kamala Harris, blue no matter who.
Yeah.
I think the people that were going to bail on Kamala Harris if Dick Cheney endorsed her were already going to bail on her. Jen's a good example of this. Jen was not planning to vote for Kamala, I don't think, prior to this. So
no, she was waffling. This is I think that for anybody who's listened to this, Jen has said she's on the fence, leaning out of the Democratic wheelhouse.
The DNC changed things for me. Being there and seeing the way they treated their own party, the people that were disagreeing on Gaza, that changed things for me. That's when I decided to vote for Jill Stein. And everything that I heard last night, from the climate to Palestine to the Dick Cheney endorsement and the way she's hugging it, all of that makes me think that we're getting Republican light with Kamala Harris. And so I'm voting that I'm not for it. But yeah, all of this has happened in the last 2 weeks.
So
I didn't have my mind made up.
Better. Now I'm coming back. Republican light sounds more my flavor. maybe I'll come in there. I do think that you're right, and that this provides a permission structure for diehard Republicans. And in the last election, the polling was fascinating on the groups that liked and didn't like Donald Trump. So as we mentioned on this program previously, Donald Trump in 2020 outdid himself in 2016 and beat in 2016 Romney in terms of African-American votes and Hispanic votes. So while African-Americans are still a very Democratic bloc, they've been slowly drifting Republican under Donald Trump, more so than Romney, which blows my mind. Ditto with Hispanic voters. The group that bailed on Donald Trump was suburbanites. It was people that live in the suburbs that are very concerned about rhetoric, among other things. People that go, I don't like how he talks. He seems odious in character. And I think for a lot of them, who probably are ethnically Republican, hearing Dick Cheney say that might give them the permission structure, as you note, to go, yeah, I'm not going to vote for this guy.
I guess I don't even like hardcore, and this maybe it is more of a generation above mine, that looks at Dick Cheney and they're like, oh, well, I remember him from the Reagan administration, and he came up the right way, and he was good to lead old Junior along when the 2000 election came. I don't know people that have a fond memory, or at least anybody that was going to say, hooray Liz Cheney, hooray Dick Cheney. They are truly putting a country over party by doing this. We're kind of gone from the Trump coalition anyway. They had kind of already peeled off. I don't know who is going there. And that's to Jen's point about like, okay, well, now she's going to the center. The one thing I would worry if I am a Democrat is that I know that Democrats can talk to Democrats. I know that the people that are running her campaign, they know what they are doing that is pissing off the environmentalists. Like Sunshine Movement came out and was down on Kamala Harris last night after her debate. Obviously, they've had problems with the Gaza coalition. They know what they are doing that are pissing people off there. I don't know if they've mentally modeled that center-right cohort that isn't already theirs, or at least not Trump's, in a way that would hurt them enough in the swing states, specifically Georgia and Arizona, that would be electorally there for them. I genuinely wonder what are the voters that are going to decide this election, especially in the Rust Belt. And I am curious. It seems like a real bank shot to think that they are going to be pulled in by a Dick Cheney endorsement, at least not to be sure that it's not going to be repelled by something like that, because he's a Darth Vader character for half of the country. And he has been. And this is one of these things with the Democrats kind of Orwellian, like, we've always been at war with East Asia philosophy they've had, is it's like 2018 with Vice wasn't long ago. Like, this is not a ancient history. So it's like 2018, Dick Cheney, the most evil man on the planet. Thank God we made a movie about it. Let's nominate it for 8 Academy Awards. 2024, Dick Cheney, strong American, country over party. Finally, somebody who is bold enough to say what needs to be said. I don't know. We'll see whether or not it works. The one thing I can say for sure is that, as somebody who was in college during 9/11 and through that first or the Bush-Kerry election, it's bizarre to me. Like, it feels like I'm having a stroke.
Who do you think is going to move the needle more for Kamala Harris? Taylor Swift and her endorsement of Kamala, or Dick Cheney and his endorsement of Kamala?
I think they should do a song together. That's what I think. I think Dick Cheney should do a song with Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift should regime change a country with Dick Cheney. I think that
they just airdrop into Montenegro, push out the fuckers, install Petraeus or something as a puppet king. I love it.
Yeah,
I do think the Swift endorsement could be huge for the low information young voters that really have proven themselves from just looking at the Kansas City Chiefs. Just how many fans the Kansas City Chiefs have now because she's dating a dude on the team. Like, she does have power over these youngsters. I think she could actually affect turnout. So I think that one's actually kind of
maybe. So it'll go from like 20 kids to 28 kids that'll vote. Like I maybe they're not historically a big, like, the reason I bring up Cheney and Swift is actually the age element. I think that Cheney will be more efficacious than Swift for that reason, because there are a lot of people that are older Republicans that were kind of hold my nose, vote for Trump, that if Cheney does it, they're like, maybe I'll vote for Kamala. With Swift, I think there's less voters that are influenced by her than older voters.
Yeah.
I don't think you're a girl. I don't think you understand girl world, man.
Take that
she
back.
is the queen.
You take that back. I am.
No, she's incredibly influential. I mean, she's had the biggest tour of all time. She might be the most famous person in music since Michael Jackson.
Well, I don't doubt any of that. I'm just saying, like, younger people don't tend to vote as much. Is she going to be the one that's able to get them to do it?
If anyone could, it's her.
I'm more with Heaton on this. I think that there is the Democratic mind is always like, oh, just one more endorsement by a celebrity. We could just have the entire primetime lineup of ABC endorse us at the same time.
That'll be the one that brings us over the line there. If Sean Penn, what about the guy that played the president on West Wing? If he endorses us, that'll be enough.
Where's the damn Daniel kid? Can we get him to endorse Kamala Harris?
How are we doing on the most voluminous part of Twitter? I assume that is a complete proxy for the American electorate.
I'm actually shocked that Taylor did it this soon. I thought she was going to do it closer to the election.
I'm not surprised, because Donald Trump made that AI thing that was basically like he forced her hand by pretending that she had.
She hugged Brittany Mahomes, who's voting for Trump, and that was like a little 24-hour news story right before she endorsed. Was like, oh, is she going to sit on the sidelines? She's hugging a Republican.
Yeah.
I think Taylor Swift
he forced her hand. That did too.
If she really wants to change, did I steal this from Tom Merritt? I think maybe I stole this from Tom Merritt. Is promise an album, but only if Kamala's elected. and like say like I will destroy the album. No one will ever hear it. It's going to be great, but I'm only going to do it if Kamala wins. I think that might
That's
actually
healthy.
motivate people.
It's going to be all about her and Travis Kelce. Yeah, even I would be like, maybe I have to vote for Kamala to get that tea. But I think the math that they're doing is the Taylor plus the endorsements plus the, Dick Cheney, all this stuff. Do those extra voters cancel out the people that they're alienating who were a part of the party, who were going to vote for them if they gave a shit about the climate in Gaza? That's the math that they're doing, and I think they're calculating that they will get more people with that strategy and ignoring.
They certainly hope so. I don't know. The history, putting together coalitions is really, really hard. It's hard to identify who your strengths are. It's hard to cater to them. It's hard to keep them together. And it's hard to build a large enough one to win the presidency, regardless of whatever party you're in. There is obviously a moment, especially as we get closer and closer to Election Day, where you do have to count people that are in your coalition as being in your coalition no matter what. And both sides are doing this. Obviously, you've seen with Gaza and the environment, that's where the Democrats are saying, shut up, nerds. We'll deal with whatever you have to say on the other side of the election. We got to talk to these other people. With Donald Trump, he's saying to the pro-life people, shut up. I gave you Roe versus, I overturned Roe versus Wade. That's what you get. I dare you to vote for Kamala Harris. I need to moderate on abortion because we are getting killed on this, and I can't allow them to keep saying that I'm going to do a nationwide abortion ban. That's what he is doing.
He wouldn't say that in the debate last night either, by the way. They tried to corner him twice. If a national abortion ban came across your desk, would you veto it? And both times he went, well, that wouldn't happen. We don't need to worry about it. It wouldn't happen. But he would not say whether or not.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
He said he doesn't support it, though.
He says he doesn't support it. I don't know how many times he needs to say that for it to be a thing, whether or not we're going to go with the exact semantics of, like, if it was on your desk.
Fair.
Like,
I retract
because
my
also
statement.
it's like, it wouldn't happen because they would need 60 votes in the Senate. So you're saying 60 Republican votes in the Senate are going to go rogue from Donald Trump and push forth an abortion ban, and then he is against his will go, and then that is, I don't know, that stretches pretty a little.
I retract my statement.
Anyway, but my coalition point stands that you eventually do have to speak to people outside of it. The only thing is that I don't believe any pro-life voters are going to vote for Kamala Harris, even though they are pissed at Donald Trump because he is watering down stuff. I do think that there are environmental voters, there are Gaza voters, and people that are motivated by those issues specifically that are fringe Democratic voters or bedrock Democratic voters who will say, I can't do it. And for the same reason why they said they couldn't do it with Hillary, that this is just not the person that I believe in. And you want to know what? We'll see what happens when you reset the decks in 28.
You want to hear the weirdest, like, completely non-scientific metric that I have for figuring out where the wind's blowing? I've had multiple friends text me from either New York City or Washington, D.C., where they're like, I just heard a couple of black people say, Trump says crazy shit, but he says what we're all saying. And it's like hearing black people say anything pro-Trump is terrifying to several of my friends. And so they will text me, and I'm like, I don't know. That's actually a powerful, maybe that's a
You
thing.
just get random texts saying, like, the blacks are saying that Donald Trump.
Yes, I do.
Your friends are monitoring the blacks?
They're very pro-Democrat and freaked out whenever they hear the reliable black voters say anything remotely positive of Trump. So
Positive about Trump.
They'll text me and go, oh, my God, I just heard a black person say something nice about Trump. That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah. Look, we do have a shifting electorate by the polling. There is polling to suggest that Donald Trump will do the best that a Republican has done with Hispanics since. Can you guys guess who the last president who did the best with Hispanics was? It was 40% of the Hispanic vote.
George W.
That's
Nailed
what I
it.
would say in
Nailed
the
it.
second
Yeah.
term.
Yep. George W. Bush nailed it.
Because he loved
so
his
there's
nanny.
Spoke
There was a
Spanish and
suggestion-
in favor of comprehensive immigration reform and viewed the Latin American community as a natural constituency of the Republican Party based on family values and hard work.
And never
And so-
accused them of eating their pets.
Well, he's accusing the Haitians of eating their pets.
Still, he's accusing
Not
immigrants of
Latin
eating
American.
their pets.
That's a different. Yeah, all right, here's all I'll say about eating pets.
Yum.
When I was growing up in South Florida, went to public school in Broward County.
Go on.
Large coalition of different places, people from different places,
Go on.
especially the Caribbean. Puerto Ricans, Venezuelans, Colombians, Haitians. Haitians were mercilessly made fun of by other black kids for eating cats. I don't know where that comes from.
So that's what you were
I
getting
don't know.
texted about was
Well, all of a sudden, I see that like Haitians are eating cats in Springfield, Ohio. By the way, Springfield, Ohio, 15 minutes away from Yellow Springs, Ohio, where Dave Chappelle lives. Netflix, cut the check. We need a special next week. I have no idea what's true. Where I think that Trump really did screw up in the debate and left money on the table is that there's a far simpler story about Springfield that doesn't have to get into whether or not you can prove that somebody lost their cat and somebody ate it, right? And that is that 20,000 Haitian immigrants have come into Springfield, Ohio, and there is not a question. The mayor has done television interviews. There are neighborhood coalitions that say this is straining the resources of a very small town. They don't have the money for their education system. They are going broke trying to get translators to just keep up with social services. There was we don't know, it was an impaired driver that ran into a school bus and killed a kid in Springfield, Ohio. That was a recent Haitian immigrant. And they were flown from Haiti to Ohio by the American government. So it's like, there's a simple story about we have a problem with how many people that we are letting in at a scale that is stretching the finances of some of these towns. And there's real angst by people for whom are not motivated by racial animus, just by if you airdrop 20,000 people, regardless of who they are, into a town that is not used to having that many people, there's going to be problems. All that gets subsumed and disproven, fact check disproven, if it's like, yeah, but did they eat a cat? Anybody eat a dog?
Well, isn't it just such a Trump thing, though, to go to the racist rumor? Like, because what you just said is a very good point. You take 20,000 white people and drop them into that town, and it's still going to strain the resources. But Trump always has to go to the racist place. And I think that's where Kamala did a really good job of pointing out, like, this is who he is. It goes back to the Central Park Five. It goes back to not allowing black people in his housing, the birther bullshit. Like, he is this guy. So instead of making that point that you made, which is actually well taken and not just happening in Springfield, Ohio, but happening in New York and in Texas and California, like so many different places. No, he had to go to these black people are eating your pets. Like, he's an asshole. And I think that's just one of the main problems with Donald Trump. He's a terrible human being. And so as much as we dislike Kamala, it's Kamala or this terrible human being. Doesn't feel good.
Justin, to your point, you're right. That was a weird non-politician moment for him, because what a politician would have said, or I should say any other politician would have said, I think by now we can call Trump a politician, but a garden variety politician would go, you know, yesterday I was in insert name of town in Swing State, talking to a woman named Elena Gordon. And Elena Gordon, who's a plumber, her son died on a school bus Tuesday, April, like root it in, like, one, make it sound like I just hang out at diners when I'm visiting swing states randomly.
That's what I do.
And there's a specific individual that I met that I talked to. Like, yeah, that was, you're right, that was an oddly absent thing.
Well, also, it's like he just screwed up, you know. Laken Riley was a name that people know, was mentioned at the State of the Union, was mentioned in the last debate. There's no reason why you shouldn't say to Kamala Harris, Laken Riley's dead because you let people into the border. That is an already like set up narrative. He totally whiffed on that, which again, I'm here for anybody's low grade on Donald Trump. My only thing is that I watched the same movie 6 times. It's not like when we get to the 7th Fast and the Furious movie, I'm going to walk out and say, too many cars. I don't know. I really wasn't expecting that many cars.
Can I ask, because I think you've got a good beat on Trump, Justin. It was referenced in the debate last night from a month ago when I think Trump did some interviews on BET, I want to say, where he said Kamala isn't black or
No,
previously.
National Association of Black Journalists. It was
Okay, he said it on
their
stage.
conference. Yeah.
Okay. National Association of Black Journalists, forgive me. But he made a thing out of like Kamala's not black, and I saw like a clip of it. Was like, oh, he's melting. This is such a weird. Like, am I missing something here? I saw that as him going, oh fuck, I had this in the can. The old guy's brains were leaking out of his ears. Now I have to fight this lady. I don't know how to do it. I'm just going to throw spaghetti against the wall. That's kind of what I thought was happening. Am I missing anything with a weird she's not black or she wasn't previously identifying black stuff?
This is like one of my least favorite things to do is to be Donald Trump's lawyer and explain like, Your Honor, here's what my client really meant to say. I think Donald Trump is a singular political force for which a lot of people see who he is and then fill in the rest. And for a lot of America, for about 30% of America, what they fill in is, yeah, he's coarse, he's off color, but he's the greatest American president we've ever had, and he's our last hope, and God himself spared him from that bullet so he could be president of the United States. And then for about 30 to 35% of America, he opens his mouth and they're like, this is the worst bag of shit that's ever happened. Everything that he says is either meant to denigrate the country, and that's it. With that comment specifically, well, here, to your larger point, I don't think that anything's really changed. He's slowed down by about 5% by my estimation. And he has slowed down by about 5% every cycle that he has run. So he is 15% less fast today than he was when he ran in 2016. That being said, him throwing shit against the wall with his opponents is what he does. In 2016, this is a great rant. Ben Carson, quite possibly one of the most sedate human beings on earth, let alone in politics, was briefly leading Donald Trump in Iowa. This is before the first caucus.
Yeah, that was his week to lead the pack, yeah.
Donald Trump went on a whole monologue about the autobiography written by Ben Carson that involves a story where he tried to stab his best friend and he accidentally hit his best friend's belt buckle and the knife broke. And Ben Carson saw that as a sign from God that he needed to get his life together. And so Donald Trump reenacts it on stage. Like, how does that even work? And he's flipping his belt buckle over and say, how stupid are the people of Iowa if they believe this, blah, blah, blah. It's him. It's what he does. He throws wild shit against the wall. He is unafraid of racial topics. Let's say that on the mild end. You could say he is a virulent racist on the spicy end. But if we were to identify a pattern of behavior, he does not care to say like, well, when I first heard of Kamala, she was the great Indian attorney general, and now she's black. When did she become black? We don't know. Like that's him. I don't view that as anything specific in terms of his decline.
Okay.
He just says it slower. He says the same shit, just slower. That's what I would peg to him. Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong. This week we're going to be talking about a Russian plot to influence conservative media uncovered. And folks, you're going to want to hop over the paywall for this one because there's personal ties to this. Andrew Heaton knows half of the people that are involved in this on the conservative media side.
I'm not going to say who it is. I may not even.
You need to name names, sir.
Across the paywall. Across the paywall.
Yes.
Broke into a hotel room with one of them. But I'm not going to say here who it was.
Yeah.
And I was possibly recruited by one of the Russians named in this indictment.
And my hands are clean, so I'm just going to make fun of the boys.
We will talk about all of that on the Patreon episode. Let's clean our palate. I feel like let's swish our mouth, get the Dick Cheney and the Kamala Harris.
Yeah, get the dick out of your mouth.
Let's get the dick out of our mouths.
Yeah.
You know? 2024 Wallet Hub report has the happiest states of America, and it ranks Hawaii as the happiest state, crediting to its natural beauty, work-life balance, and strong community connections. The study examined 50 states across 30 metrics, including emotional, physical, economic, and social well-being. Top states include Maryland and New Jersey next to Hawaii. You don't usually see Maryland and New Jersey mentioned next to the island paradise, and yet there we are. Conversely, states like Louisiana ranked last because it struggled with physical health and economic security. Key factors influencing happiness include financial stability, mental health care, work-life balance, community support, physical well-being. The findings underscore the importance of living in environments that support these things. Jen Briney, former resident of Hawaii. I thought of you immediately. Do you believe that Hawaii is the happiest state in the union?
I absolutely do. I mean, I know that my husband and I look back so fondly on those 2.5 years that we lived there. And really, the main reason that we left is that I was kind of bored with going to the beach all the time. And my family is on the mainland. And so for every wedding or every holiday, we had to fly over the ocean. And like that got to be pretty difficult. But if our family were in the islands, like I could see myself staying there forever. And the three things that they listed, I mean, obviously there's natural beauty. It's Hawaii.
Yeah.
But work-life balance, we definitely found that to be a real thing. And a big part of that is their health insurance system. Your employers have to give you health insurance if you work more than 19 hours. It's just like required, and it's easy to get, and there's really no bullshit to it. So it's like if you're waiting tables, your boss gives you health insurance. I worked for a literal Hawaiian gangster. His office was in a bank vault. It's the weirdest job I've ever had, and he gave me health insurance. So it was just easy to get, and you didn't really have to worry about that, where I feel like a lot of places in the mainland you absolutely do. And then the community connections, we never made friends faster. We've moved a lot. We've never made friends faster than we did in Hawaii, because it's just, there's a hangout culture there. And we never watched TV. It was just culturally, like, it's not a thing that people do. Even at night, people are hanging out in their front yard with everyone else who's hanging out in the front yard, and kids are running around the street when you go into the suburbs. And it's just very much, it's a place where people spend time together. And so yeah, I absolutely buy that Hawaii is that high up on the list, because I lived it. I felt it. And it's also interesting to me looking at the list, like the places that are on the bottom. And it's the places where I feel like I would be the most economically insecure, you know, like Louisiana, Arkansas, West Virginia, Tennessee, these red states that don't provide social safety nets. In Hawaii, I never worried. And like, keep in mind, in Hawaii, I hadn't yet started the show. I didn't really have a career. I was waiting tables. Joe was waiting tables. We used our tip money to put him into Hawaii Pacific University. That's how Joe got his first degree in solar engineering. So we were able to have health insurance while waiting tables and put him through school. And we lived on the 18th floor of one of the towers in Waikiki. We had a gorgeous apartment. Like, we lived well there, and we were able to, better ourselves because there was this safety net that was, I think, unique to the islands, where I look at these places that are at the bottom of the list, they don't have that. So I think the quality of life is connected to the quality of government. And I buy it completely.
Heaton, you buy this Islander bullshit?
Jen is wrong on every single level. People in Hawaii are miserable. Jen was miserable while she was there. I was friends with her. She cried all the time. She has completely forgotten how awful she was because she's hysterical and her feelings are invalid.
Wow. Do you want to guess where Oklahoma is, Heaton?
I think it's it's either 35 or 40 or something like that, right?
43, just outside of that bottom 5 that Jen was villainizing here, which includes Alaska. Alaska is the 45th, so we got 2 states to round out the 50 number, and Alaska's in the bottom 5. Hawaii's at the top.
Well, Alaska's pretty red statey, so I count them as.
Is it red statey? I guess it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they in the
red.
House of Representatives, they had Don Young representing them for over 40 years.
Yeah,
Dan
but now they have
Sullivan is
Mary
their senator
Patola.
now.
She's the, what's it called? She's a Democrat. She beat Sarah Palin.
And yeah, for the governorship, but on the congressional level.
No. As the congressional, the at-large congressional.
Oh, well, I don't know. I just know that Alaska is a fossil fuel state. It's very isolated. I mean, that's one problem with Alaska. I don't know. I don't live in Alaska, so I don't have personal experience with this, but Alaska is huge. One of the things when it's easy to have a lot of community in Hawaii when it's sunny every single day.
When it's gorgeous.
Like, every day, yeah. So it's like the islands are small enough to where you know your neighbors, you're hanging out with your neighbors. It's easy to make friends. You can be outside all the time. From what I hear, Alaska's fucking cold and it's huge and has very few people in it. So it's hard to have robust communities in locations like that. So, Alaska makes sense to me at the bottom of the list.
Jen's doing my work for me now. I like that we're ranking states other than just on GDP, although I will note that there seems to be a correlation there to some extent. Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama are very poor. Oklahoma's relatively poor. I would be curious looking at this in terms of happiness based on socioeconomic status, since these are just averages as a whole. Within the United States, you find that there's growing alienation and isolation and loneliness, but that seems to be happening more for working class people rather than upper class people or upper middle class people. So I would want it to get a little bit more granular. But I like the idea that we're looking at states in different ways. I wish that there were more metrics available that tried to take into account just kind of a cohesive well-being of people. So, I like all of that. I don't know enough about the health insurance system in Louisiana or Alabama or the other ones to say that that's the definitive characteristic, but it could be that having
they've turned down the Obamacare money, so states that did that are on the bottom of this. That's easy to notice.
Mm-hmm. Could be. I don't know. I'm hesitant to immediately turn this into a proxy of red team's bad makes people sad, blue team good, or anything like that. It could be, but I would need to know more before I came down on that, just in terms of the overall metrics.
Well, and I don't want to misconstrue. Like, I'm actually not saying red team bad, blue team good, because number 4 on the list is Utah, and if you look at they factored in community, Utah has a giant Mormon community. And you can see that having community is a big deal when it comes to quality of life. And that's number 4 on the list. That is a red state. That's where Mitt Romney is the senator. So it's I don't think that this is necessarily political, but I know that when I lived in Massachusetts, which is number 10 on the list, very easy to get health insurance. Everyone is required to give it to you. I definitely felt more economically secure there than I did what I do now here in Texas. I worry about my health insurance. I worry about the fact that our governor is trying to track people's periods to make sure they're not getting abortions and just crazy shit that happens here. I worry that there isn't a social safety net. I'm in a different economic situation, but I wonder if 15 years ago, had I been living in Texas, I don't know that I would have been as happy, because I knew that there was a limit to how low I could go economically in Hawaii and Massachusetts, because that was the order. I went Hawaii and then directly Massachusetts. I don't know that I would have felt so secure had I moved to Texas straight
maybe so.
out of college like that.
Let's just real quick. Let's do the top 5 here. Hawaii, Maryland, New Jersey, Utah, Delaware are the top 5, and then the top 10: Minnesota, Connecticut, Idaho, Nebraska, Massachusetts. If we're going to pick out a few states that are relevant to this program, California coming in at 13 after South Carolina and South Dakota. And then right after that, tied for 14th, are Florida and New Hampshire.
So there you go.
Yeah, I don't know. There seems to be enough variation there of red state, blue state, that I would correlate that more with just wealth than I would social safety net. Although you could make the argument that the blue states are wealthier because progressive policies work better. We could maybe do that. I don't know. When it comes to the social safety net stuff, I'm over in Britain right now, and I want there to be a social safety net. My problem with social safety net stuff tends to be the scaling mechanism for it. So when I'm over here in Britain, or when we go to Europe, we've mentioned this before, most of the people I talk to, I go, does your healthcare system work? Do you like your healthcare system? Everybody really not in Britain, I should say, but in Europe, everybody really likes their healthcare system. And whenever I ask them, do you think it would work better at a supranational level out of Brussels, everybody goes, no, I wouldn't want to do that. So, it might. Like, I don't know anything about Massachusetts healthcare. I know that they've got Romney Care, which is the precursor to Obamacare. If it's working well, that's great. Maybe they should replicate that elsewhere. What I would love to have on the American level is more variability between states, where if Vermont wants to go full single payer, we exempt them from having to pay Medicare and Medicaid because they're able to take care of their own. And if New Hampshire or Texas goes, we actually think we could get more people lower prices if we had less regulation, I would love for them to be able to do that too. So it could be all of those things, but I'd like there to be more experimentation, and hopefully we would have the presence of mind to replicate smart models.
Heaton, from your perspective, philosophically, is there a necessity if something works on a state level that you should replicate it to a federal level? Like where is that line in terms of solutions where you believe that, okay, this is a great local fix, or this is a blueprint that can scale indefinitely?
I don't know. I think about this a lot because I think scaling is really important to a lot of the governmental models we discuss, and I don't think people really pay attention to it. We tend to kind of turn it into like yay government or boo government, and I think that government can operate very well at lower levels, but it does change. So, like, for example, I went out to a hippie commune, for lack of a better term, here in Scotland called the Findhorn community last weekend. Lovely time. Had a good time while I was there. Got one of their pamphlets out, and or like local newspapers, and they had a thing in it called the Abundance Fund, and it says, if you're a member of the Findhorn community and you need money, people put money into this Abundance Fund every week, and just come by the office and say you need it. We're not going to ask any questions, and we'll just give you money to help you out. Probably works very well in that group of 200 people. But if you were to scale that kind of thing up to a federal level, I think it would be an absolute disaster. But at that local level where everybody knows each other, where that people are giving that money because they know their neighbors and they want to help their neighbors, and the neighbors don't want to take advantage of their other neighbors, I think that probably works really well. At some point where you're not having that interpersonal connection, that kind of thing wouldn't scale up. There's some stuff that I've changed my mind on. I typically am very local control. I think that local control has just rampantly abused zoning everywhere in the country, and that's something that needs to be taken away. So that needs to either be done at the state level or potentially the national level. I think you can make an argument, there's a good argument to be made, that the stuff that you nationalize gets more attention because the whole country can focus on it, whereas stuff at the local level can maybe slip by. But generally, though, I think that things that involve a lot of being able to identify individuals that have problems and respond to them, that works a lot better locally, where we can kind of know each other and we can have skin in the game. And I think that scales up worse and worse the bigger you get.
Jen, best beach in Hawaii?
There's actually one. What the hell was it called? Bellows. Bellows was the best one. It's over on Waikiki's on the south west side. Mm-hmm. And Bellows is on the east side, but it's actually a military base, so you can only go there on the weekends. But it's like perfect sand. Sometimes there's no waves, but even if there are waves, they're not like crashing on sand, so you can kind of like body surf them. But I love Bellows. I think about it all the time.
It's funny you mentioned
and a lot of tourists don't know that it exists.
That at a certain point you just kind of get tired of the beach, because that was like I never appreciated the beach growing up on a beach in Fort Lauderdale. It was always a thing that as a kid you're excited to go do it because it's fun to splash around in the water, and then as an adult it's just like, I don't know. I have to take my shirt off. This is bad.
A beach is just a desert with a hole at the end. I don't get it at all. It's like,
well, we're not talking to you weird prairie dog. Get out of here.
What are we going to do at this desert? Oh, we're all going to get really tired and lay down for a long time. Oh, great. We're going to be forced to take naps so you're dead fish. Terrific.
Okay, there's other things to do at the beach. Tweed jacket. Like, you can go paddleboarding or kayak to, like, there were islands off the coast we used to kayak to, and like go see cool. Monk seals there's a lot of stuff to do. And actually there is a beach. It's called the Sandbar, and it's a beach that just kind of like appears based on the tides. Yeah. And so we would take boats out there, and the Sandbar is always a party. So no, there's things I absolutely miss about. I'm actually going back to the islands in November, and I'm really excited. So it's nice to have like a piece of my heart there. I just, like I said, like I don't know, every single day. It's a lot.
My problem with Hawaii when I was there, or at least what I would extrapolate in the week that I was in Hawaii, but it was very similar. I recognize the vibes from South Florida, is that there are some places that are so gorgeous you can't be ambitious. Like I do think that environment, you need a little bit of grit. I'm not like one of these psychopaths that wants to be in a cold climate, but like you do need a little bit of grit to kind of keep motivated, because boy, in South Florida and in Hawaii, there's just a lot of people for whom, and God bless them, are just like, yeah, this is great. I make $30,000 a year. I hang out every day. I get drunk with my friends. Maybe I have a significant other. Maybe I don't. But this is just what it is. And you watch that cycle kind of go until eventually they're just kind of the old guy at the bar.
Yeah,
But
I
the
think
culture in Hawaii is that there's nothing wrong with that. And I
Yeah.
100%
Oh, South Florida too.
believe that.
Yeah.
We did have a range. So this is when I worked for the Hawaiian Gangster and I was sending people to Times Square presentations, but there was a half-hour range for when your shift would start. So your shift was between 4 and 4:30 based on whenever the hell you showed up. And the person who worked before you just had to stay until you showed up. And then if they weren't there by 4:30, then you were allowed to leave. But like, yeah, it was all done on ranges. There was like Hawaiian time. And the fact that people that just wanted to work their jobs and then hang out after, and that was their life, why not? You know, why should it be a constant struggle?
Yeah.
So I loved everything about the culture.
Yeah, that was just not for me.
Roots are a propulsion for me. In Oklahoma, we have brutal winters where trees split down the middle from ice. We have brutal summers, which are comparable to Texas, just shorter. We have tornado season. And the upshot to all of this is we know God's trying to kill us. We know God wants us dead, and we are trespassing temporarily on this planet, and we need to get shit done because we're going to fucking die. Then you go to somewhere like Los Angeles, and you find like a 50-year-old who's like hanging out on a beanbag, and then they get up and go, oh my God, I'm 50. How did this happen? You're like, because you don't have seasons. You never think about the fact you're going to die. You're 50 now. You have a skateboard. What have you done with your life? Nothing.
God
It's
is trying
fire
to kill
season
us.
right now.
God is trying to kill us. The motto of the 43rd happiest state in the union, Oklahoma. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com. Halliburton approved. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com. We got a new website for you, friends. In an effort to help out our esteemed editor, we have a collection site for all of Lord Uncle Heaton's colorful phrases, Heatonisms.com. So when I was gone, Will Saddleberg said that maybe for one of the holiday episodes or something like that, we can do an episode that is just made up of the Heatonisms, or maybe we'll do a top 10 Heatonisms of the year segment. When he says one, like what was the one the other day?
The other one was the peace fire.
Peace fire, yeah. More hats to you, of course, a classic.
Occam's laser.
Occam's laser. So just go ahead. As soon as he says them, enter them in there. Heatonisms.com. Thank you for putting that together. Tribal rights. I really don't think that I belong to a tribe per se, but I do feel like I define my tribe as the anti-democrat tribe. Though I still think I might be capable of seeing some of the good things that they want to do, I focus on all the bad things they want to do and have done. Democrats controlled the House from 1957 to 1995. They also controlled the Senate for all but 6 years at that time. Democrats have been behind almost all of the major laws for the past 100 years, some good but mostly bad.
I would advise you against that. Like, this is something that kind of bothers me in my neck of the woods. Like I hang out with a lot of the Never Trumpers and a lot of the libertarians, and I have noticed I don't know whether they're growing or it's just that I've taken notice of them recently, but I've noticed a group of people that I would just describe as anti-Democrat. That it's not even that they're particularly conservative or libertarian or moderate. They just really don't like Democrats. And I don't think that is a good way to orient yourself, as I exist in opposition to this other team. Like, have a thing that you believe. Have a grand strategy of, like, this is how to help people. This is how to make people happy. Let's march there. When the Democrats occlude that, fight them on it. But, like, it makes me uncomfortable how much schismogenic thinking we have in this country, where I form my thing based on opposing you.
I agree completely. And just like that last line, that Democrats have been behind most all of the major laws for the last 100 years, some good, mostly bad. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's so broad and such a silly statement. I mean, we've been talking about health insurance here. The Democrats are the ones that gave us the Affordable Care Act. Like, do you really hate that your private insurance company isn't allowed to deny you because of pre-existing conditions? Like, do you really hate that your insurance company is being forced to provide you 10 essential benefits, including preventative care and hospital stays? Like, ooh, bad Democrats. Like, I feel like it's important to look at the details of what these bills and laws do before you make your decisions based on like, I'm just anti-Democrat, because turns out that they've done some things that have demonstrably helped the working class in the United States. I'm guessing because you're listening to this show that you're probably working class, and so it might help you to actually look at the details before you make the decision on which team you're going to hate.
I'll add one more bit to that. Democrats have done a lot of stupid shit and a lot of bad shit, but I also don't like the idea that political parties are like a kind of permanent spirit that reanimates every generation. Like, the people that were debating eugenics aren't the people that we're hanging out with today. Like, yep, the progressive movement did eugenics, and it was Democrats, and I think that political parties aren't really a thing. They're a grab bag. They're a grocery cart. And the stuff that's in the grocery cart changes all the fucking time, as evidenced by the fact that the Democrats are now the pro-trade party with Dick Cheney in it, and the Republicans are the anti-free trade party that wants to slap a 20% tariff. Like, they're just coalitions. They're just grab bags. They don't, like, the parties don't have a soul. They're a cart you put stuff in.
I do think that you are seeing some of that shifting electorate, though, and this is part of it, is that you are seeing more of an idea of like, okay, well, I have believed in the Democrats and now I don't believe in them, and I'm starting to look at them in a more cynical way. You know, that is part of it, in the same way that you're seeing a drift of Republicans saying, I'm disgusted with this new version of the Republican Party, and now I identify more with the Democrats. It's just how we're moving these days. Star Wars fan writes, Mr. Heaton should be made aware that Pluto TV has multiple 24/7 free ad-supported Star Trek channels. You don't even need an account.
Wow, okay, great. I might buy a TV again.
Yeah.
You've just made Heaton very unproductive for the rest of the year. So thank you.
You are now free to move about the boardroom, writes, I donated $25.50 into Jen's account on August 11th for the explicit purpose of buying one Southwest share so she could be a shareholder.
I do appreciate that. I haven't actually acted on it because
Fire up that E-Trade account, girl.
Hey, I got
know
something.
You're really excited for me to become a Southwest activist, but I do have shit to do.
You can buy a share. Stop it.
But I don't.
Buy a share. Commit to buying a share before the next show.
This is
I
really
literally
important.
don't even know how.
Gang,
This is fine.
Everybody, I'm Andrew Heaton. Send me money.
All
will,
right.
whatever money you send me, I will buy Southwest shares, and I will oppose fucking Jen just to teach her a lesson and force her to do something. So this is giving me money out of spite to make Southwest what Jen doesn't want.
Jen
steps up.
This is an important thing, Jen. You need to learn how to buy a share and buy a share. Somebody paid you money to do it.
But I didn't ask for it. Like.
No, it was a brilliant idea Heaton came up with that you failed to take, and that's why people are going to give Heaton money to make sure that Southwest Airlines gets bottomed the fuck out with me as an activist shareholder.
I have said this since the beginning when I started Congressional Dish, because people think that they can assign me homework assignments because they give me money. And I don't want to become some Southwest activist going up against Elliott
No one
management.
says that you have to be a Southwest activist.
Yeah,
We're saying,
does.
Like,
Andrew
enough with
does.
him. Whatever. He's already exiled himself
He
to Scotland.
started
Nobody
all
cares.
of this.
Whatever. We don't care about what British people say. You just need to buy one share. It's fine. You can do it on your phone. Weakness is strength, writes, I heard recently calling the DNC's behavior Orwellian. I'm from New Jersey. My family is a blue team down to their bone marrow. My sister and some cousins aggressively work for and or volunteer to blue team politicians and candidates. Whenever I bring up my perspective, I'm dismissed or scolded, and the undertone is always, how dare you dissent from what's been decided? Don't you know that we're the good people? My sister has even unironically called me a white supremacist. We're both mixed black and white, by the way. A few times when we weren't even talking about race. Watching the DNC this year felt very here we go again in terms of the election. I'm 28 and it feels like they've finally just given up on me. Hearing the term Orwellian came from y'all and describing the DNC felt like a giant puzzle piece that was missing from the center, which finally fell into place to complete the picture. I love my family and the omnipresent wedge makes me sad.
I feel like Orwellian applies to both of the duopoly parties. Like
I will say that
because it's the Republicans that set up the spying network. I mean, it's straight out of 1984.
Sure. No, I mean, I'm talking about like literally right now. If we're going to take a snapshot of right now, I will say that the Republican Party, all the negative thing that you can say is shit that they actually just say. And they're like, no, like Donald Trump, I did have the election stolen from me. People are eating cats. Like it is out of their mouths. It's like, wait, did you mean? And he's like, nope, meant what I said, whether or not it's insane. That's where we're at right now. And everybody else has to just explain around it. Like, well, maybe, I don't know. Where the Democrats are like, Joe Biden, greatest president. He is going to be president again. We are running. Joe Biden, possibly dead. We don't care. We haven't seen him. Kamala Harris, greatest person on earth. Dick Cheney, evil. Dick Cheney, good. That's what I would define as the logic
double
leap.
think. The double
Yes.
Like
think
the part of the book
phenomenon.
where it's we've always been at war with
Yes.
East Asia.
Exactly. That's what I mean. That's what I mean by Orwellian.
That is the creepy element of the Democratic Party right now. Yeah, like
It
I kind of
is.
I both I left both conventions feeling better because I met so many kind, good people. But I am in a resting state of like we're choosing. This is a war of lizard people. We're choosing lizard people. Like I'm not going to pretend that either one of these people is some sort of like magical savior that will march America across a hill. We're selecting the least awful person.
I think
to
Trump's
be
a
in
fat
there.
toad.
Yeah, a lizard person.
Trump's a
versus
fat toad.
hypno-toad.
It's a lizard versus a toad because I feel Trump has more toad energy.
Yeah,
A brown toad. He's
A brown
definitely-
toad, an orange toad.
I agree. I
His
will-
tan was a little off last night.
I do.
little
I,
bit.
Is that?
I do sympathize with you, listener, a bit in that maybe I would have a complete reversal if I were living in a lot of like rural red counties. Maybe I would say the exact opposite. But as a guy that's lived in bright blue cities the last several years, I have a lot of friends that have that mindset of like we're the good people team. Like the other team's willfully evil, and I will have to like I'm like no, both teams actually think they're the good team. They might be wrong, but they think they're the good team. And I know what you're talking about, and I encounter that a decent amount.
Yeah, but we encounter that with Republicans too. I mean, just standing around listening to those conservative talk radio people talk about how the Democrats are evil and
Yeah.
like, I mean, they're both doing that shit.
Sure.
Oh yeah, I mean in terms of demonizing each other, yes.
Yeah,
Although I will
don't
say
contest
tis the season for that. Like this is when we're supposed to be doing that. I maintain that for like this phase is when we should be yelling at each other and saying ad hominem attacks. It's the other 3 years that I'm like, then be nice. Then say, well, hey, let's look at where we can connect. But this is Battle World. This is Thunderdome. This is when we fight. On AOC ripping Jill Stein, I'm going to read this quote. This was AOC in her own words from 99% Invisible. Quote, I pissed off all the gatekeepers and ring holders and all that. And you didn't kiss the ring and you didn't do the proper things. And so we're not going to move your bill. And that was, I think, the story of those early days. And so then I kind of looked around and I said, okay, what other levers can I use? I don't need to pass this thing or do the thing because it's passed on public consciousness. And so what I started to do was look for small and unnoticed ways. And so I started to turn to how I could do things without my name being on it, without the Green New Deal being on it, but it's actually being a Green New Deal project. And so my next step was that I started to marshal community project funds. And so in the last couple of years, for the first time in over a decade, Congress started to renew the practice of community-funded projects by members of Congress. And so I said, how can I make a Green New Deal project in my community? And then also, how can I contact the 100 or so other co-sponsors of the Green New Deal and get them to build Green New Deal projects in their communities? And we won't put Green New Deal in the text, but it will meet all the standards and it creates good union jobs and it focuses on undeserved communities that it helps us decarbonize our economy in 10 years.
I mean, good on her for recognizing what levers she could pull inside Congress. I think that's a brilliant strategy. But just looking at how she started that story, I pissed off all of the gatekeepers and ring holders and all that. I mean, that's what the Green Party's saying exists, is gatekeepers and ring holders. And so where AOC shares the values of the Green New Deal, again, an idea she ripped off from the Green Party, where they share those values, they could be working in concert, where she got in as a Democrat. She's working within the Democratic Party, using the levers that she has. At the same time, she could be using the leverage that Jill Stein has right now by saying like, hey, Democrats, maybe we should move a little bit further left because look at all these people that are going to be voting for Jill Stein. Instead, she's attacking Jill Stein. Instead of saying like, you know, these are people that actually share our values. The people that share these values are looking elsewhere because we are saying that we are going to frack baby frack and drill baby drill and, you know, don't give a damn about, you know, the Gazan children. We think history started on October 7th. And all of these things that Kamala was saying last night that upset people, AOC is instead playing the role of demonizing the Green Party when they actually agree on policy. And that's where I have a problem with AOC. I have no problem with the way she's decided to play her hand inside the Democratic Party, but let's just acknowledge that she is abandoning her values in some ways by attacking the people that are working for the same exact things, but just doing it a different way. You know, it's a matter of tactics. The Green Party's going one way, she's going another. At the end of the day, if we have solar plants, don't we all win? So, yeah.
AOC did nothing wrong, writes. The Green and Libertarians collectively hold 0 national offices, 0 state or territorial governorships, and have exactly 1 member in any state's legislature, thanks Libertarians. Despite this, they manage to show up every 4 years and make a bunch of noise about a presidency that they can't possibly win. The Libertarians at least switch up their losing presidential ticket, while the Greens keep going back to Jill Stein for some reason.
So there's so many factual inaccuracies in that. First of all, Jill Stein, once again, was not the nominee for the Green Party in 2020. And also the idea that they can't possibly win the presidency, they absolutely can. They have enough ballot access to mathematically win the presidency and by a lot. So it's like they can win if people decided to vote for them. But the idea that they don't have any national offices or state governorships yet doesn't mean that they never can. That is entirely up to us if we have the balls to actually vote for them and to stop continuing to vote for the duopoly when all of us keep saying that we're unsatisfied with them. The only way that these other parties are going to get the power that you shit on them for not having is if we vote for them. Hence why I'm going to vote for them.
On cable dying, I work in the entertainment industry, writes. Jen is dead wrong about the collapse of cable in relation to entertainment. In fact, now realizing the drive to streaming was entirely built on sticks, many conglomerates have begun reinvestment in original cable programming, such as Universal reviving USA Originals following the streaming success of Suits, Warner Media reviving TNT Originals following the loss of the NBA, and Paramount moving all scripted adult animation from Paramount Plus to Comedy Central post-merger. All of this lines up with closed-door conversations I've had personally on the matter. The investment in cable has gone up in entertainment this year, not down.
So I'm very confused about what I'm dead wrong about here because
dead wrong, Jen.
Dead wrong.
Dead wrong.
Yeah, and there's a lot of all caps going on. It's a very Trumpy email. But what I was saying is that if cable collapsed, it would be really bad for entertainment, which this seems to back up. But what I actually, when I looked at the substance of this, it's interesting to me that we're acting like USA and TNT and Comedy Central are their own entities. I mean, you're even saying like Universal is reviving USA content.
Yeah.
Warner is reviving TNT stuff. Paramount Plus is reviving Comedy Central. Like, no. You can, just like how Albertsons can say that Safeway and Vons and Pavilions and Albertsons are all different things. Bullshit. They're all Albertsons. This is Universal and Warner Media and Paramount. Like, we don't have all of the different cable stations that we used to because they've been gobbled up by these conglomerates. Yes, they are currently this year throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. But I don't know who's watching these USA Originals or TNT things because, like, who watches those channels? So I don't know what I'm dead wrong about here. I mean, thanks for the information.
I think that directionally the emailer is correct that currently this cycle, and this is coming out of a lot of different things. I don't think that it has a lot to do with the cable bundle numbers that we were talking about. I think that is more of an existential crisis that everybody in all these conglomerates are going to have to deal with. What these decisions are more made of is the realization post-strike when a lot of these companies, streaming companies specifically, did a thing that they had never done before, which is sell each other's programming. So now you see HBO stuff show up on Netflix. You see Netflix originals show up on some of these other stuff. Peacock originals show up on Netflix. they are realizing, oh, wait, we should reinvest in cable, because not only do we then create stuff that we can not only just move to our streaming service, we can sell to the other streaming services if they happen to have more of a use for it. That creates a second line of revenue. And then also, if people catch up on something on a streaming service and it's first run on cable, then that means they're going to have to get cable to watch it. If you catch up on Yellowstone, then you have to, on Paramount, the Paramount network, then you're going to have, that's probably a bad example because I think it's on it's not a Paramount Plus, but still, then you would have to watch it on, if you caught up on Yellowstone on streaming, then you have to watch it on the Paramount network, even though it's not on Paramount Plus. So they do get the ad revenue. They can sell ad revenue against that thing. Anyway, complicated entertainment thing. Nobody's dead wrong, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it sounds like they're all flailing to me, because I can tell you I never watched Yellowstone, but it's a good analogy where it's like, oh, I watched the first 6 seasons of something, but now to watch the new one, I have to get cable. Do you want to know what I do? I just don't watch it in real time, and I wait until it's on a streaming service that I already pay for. So it's like the cord cutting issue is still an issue, even if you guys are finding ways to make it profitable this year. I mean, his big conclusion here is the investment in cable has gone up in entertainment this year. Well, we were talking bigger picture about what happens as more cord cutters exist. And it sounds to me like that would still be a problem for this business.
Well, and even then, just the concept of, do people want live? Do people want, and that's the big thing, is that what we were talking about last week was not even just the well-stated idea that people are taking cable boxes out of their homes. We're done with that. That is already a thing that continues to erode. What is interesting and I think worrying for the industry is that YouTube TV, Hulu, and all the replacements that are over-the-top streaming versions of that are also stalling. And if that's the case, then we just do have a fundamental wholesale change in how we take in information. Serious question. Are you ready for some football, right? Question to Jen and Justin. Do you plan to watch any of the NFL games scheduled to stream live on Netflix? What are your thoughts on the role in the shifting TV landscape?
Can I answer this?
Yes, you
I don't
can.
know why I wasn't. The answer is no. I'm going to not watch it on Netflix. I have 3 different ESPN channels that I purchase in order to watch every fucking football game that happens. I have ESPN Prime, ESPN Platinum, and ESPN Silver, and I'm going to watch every single game. And if they're at the same time, I will have 2 TVs that allow me to do it. And I'm not going to watch it on Netflix, because why would I? I already have 3 different ESPNs.
So obviously Andrew doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, but he just Forrest Gumped his way into making a good point, which is that, the NFL has been jerking us around like this for a while. It started with, the Thursday night games were all going to be on NFL Network, and we're like, none of us have this, none of us want this. And now they're spreading around, like there was one on Friday that was Peacock, and
I got Peacock. I got cocked.
Oh, you sucker!
Yeah. I'm gonna cancel it.
Yeah, well, so I still had Peacock because of the Olympics, and so I forgot to cancel that, but I'm going to cancel that. But like what the NFL is doing is you need ESPN for Monday night, you need NBC for Sunday night, you need NFL Network. Do we need NFL Network?
No, you
don't.
I don't know. No,
there's going to be an Amazon game. There's a Peacock game. There's a Netflix game. What's happening with Joe and I is we've just decided to watch less football. We've had enough.
Traitors.
So there's going to be games we just don't see because I'm not fucking doing this. And that's one of the problems with the NFL is I love the game. I love going to the games. But the NFL itself is so despicable. Like they do not care about the fans or the fan experience. And I'm not doing it. So Netflix, will I watch? Yes, because I currently have Netflix.
You have Netflix. Yeah.
Will I be signing up for any other service? No. I'll go to a bar or I just won't watch the game.
I will.
I'm not
There's
doing this.
3 things I love in life: football, beaches, and comic gobbledygook. If I can hang out on a beach and watch some NFL with my friends in the Red Army, then I will do it.
Justin, I'm surprised you bought Peacock for the Friday game because it wasn't a Steelers game. How did they suck you in? You just desperate for some football?
You have to understand that I'm in a bunker mentality.
Yeah, you're
these
also
days.
in prison.
I'm in a bunker mentality. So it's like, I was just doing other shit and I just wanted to watch football. And so I, bought Peacock and I think it is a good modern muscle to build, to say like, no, I'm going to take the hit. I'm going to take the $13.99 hit or whatever. I'll see if there's anything else on Peacock that Ashley and I can binge. And if not, then whop, let's get rid of it. And if you buy it through Apple, it's actually really easy. There's a little subscription thing on your phone where you can just one button, just get rid of it. And that's the benefit of our modern era, is that yes, you do have a lot of annoying services, but it's never been easier to pick it up in 5 seconds and then drop it 5 seconds later.
That's true. Yeah, I definitely got the buzz when I heard da, 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 da. I was like, yes, it's back. It was an exciting weekend.
How about a little late Andrew Heaton sports question of the week?
Go for it. I am ready.
Good debut against Vegas.
Every day is a good day for Bew. Bew is what holds this country together on so many levels. And Vegas does not know what it's up against, I'll tell you that much. Vegas slinking into the arena to fight Bew and thinking it's even going to be a fair fight is ridiculous. Bew's going to bowl him over. Going to bowl him up. Mark my words. Mark my words.
Of course, the Los Angeles Chargers made their debut against the Las Vegas Raiders in a win.
Uh-huh. You know, that
with
surprised
their
me.
new coach.
Yeah. Bew.
No.
Belichick?
No.
Oh, good guess.
Who's your other favorite coach?
Doug Burgum?
Close.
I know who it is, but who are you thinking of? Because there's multiple coaches.
Well, he was formerly of Michigan.
Oh, right. Yeah. The Michigander. Good guy. I didn't think the L.A. Chargers were going to pull it off, but they played a good game, and they did. When it comes right down to the fundamentals, those guys know what they're up to, and they've put in the work, they've put in the effort. It's been a long season, and they're getting there, and I couldn't be happier.
The new coach he hired the strength and conditioning coach first because he wanted his players to be strong.
Smart move.
And that coach is
Jared Kushner.
Jim Hardball.
Oh,
Jim
that's right.
Hardball.
Yes, Jim Hardball. I was just joshing you. Yeah, Jim Hardball's done a stupendous job. He's doing a smart game. He's looking at the long term for the Raiders, which is exactly what he should be doing. And they're putting in the
Chargers.
work. They're putting in the work. I think they're going to make it. They're going to make it dependent.
Mm-hmm. We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. On PX3 this week, there will be a re-uploaded version of the debate recap. And then on Friday, we will have our preview of the final furlough of this election with Tom LoBianco of 24 Site, formerly of USA Today, and Michael Cohen, the man who wrote the book on the modern political campaign. Go ahead and check that out. Mr. Heaton.
I don't know, something British. I've got 2 or 3 interviews that I've done. I don't know which one I'm going to do yet. I'll talk to an interesting British person. How about that?
Okay.
Maybe
that
an
sounds
attorney.
legit.
Maybe an attorney. Maybe an economist. Maybe one of my friends who lives at the Livingston Strip Mall. We'll find out.
At any moment, we'll figure it out. Jen, what's cooking on the dish?
So I'm working on an episode about right to repair laws.
Ooh.
Yeah, this was started by Tom Merritt because he had me on the Daily Tech News show last week to talk about this, and I ended up down the rabbit hole. So I found out enough that it was good for a Congressional Dish episode. And I'm excited that this will be the 300th Congressional Dish episode.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. So, and what is this, mid-September? Actually, it's 9/11.
And again, you fucking almost forgot, dude. There was
9/11.
one deal, and that was to never forget.
Is CNN still fucking replaying it, or have they stopped doing that on 9/11?
I don't know. I
hope they
slept
stop
until
doing
I
that.
slept until 10 because of child
The
rearing.
baby.
ESPN
Yeah.
usually mentions it, after.
But
10.
yeah, around this week is the 12-year anniversary of Congressional Dish too. So there you
There
go.
you go.
But that episode should be done by the next episode of this, I would hope.
Well, that'll wrap it up for us. For Andrew Heaton and Jen Briney, I'm Justin Robert Young, reminding you that we're not wrong.